12,000 years ago, before the wheel, before writing, before any known civilization, someone built a megalithic complex so advanced it shouldn't exist. Buried beneath the sands of time, Göbekli Tepe challenges everything we thought we knew about human history. Who built it? How did they carve and arrange 20-ton stones with such precision, before even agriculture existed? Mainstream science says civilization began 6,000 years ago, but this site is twice as old and infinitely more mysterious. Was Göbekli Tepe the work of forgotten humans, or something else entirely? A lost civilization, ancient gods, or visitors from beyond? Stay with us as we uncover the secrets of a structure that rewrites the origins of our species. And if you're ready to explore what history tried to forget, hit subscribe and let's begin. The first light of the morning sun spills over the rugged hills of southeastern Turkey, casting long, silent shadows across the earth. The land is still, save for the soft rustle of the wind through the sparse vegetation. Beneath this tranquil surface, however, lies a secret waiting to be uncovered. Here, in this quiet corner of the world, is a place that should not exist. A place that holds the key to a forgotten history. A history that challenges everything we thought we knew about the rise of civilization. Welcome to Göbekli Tepe. As the sky shifts from pale blue to golden, a sense of ancient time hangs in the air, heavy and thick. It is a feeling not easily described, but one that is palpable as you step onto the site, your feet pressing softly into the cool earth. The ground seems to hum beneath you, as though it is alive with memory. Each stone, each pillar, feels as though it has been waiting for this moment, waiting for someone to see, to understand. There is a silent invitation, as though the stones themselves are calling you, urging you to look closer, to listen more intently. Göbekli Tepe is unlike any other ancient site. It is not just a temple or a ceremonial ground. It is a question. How could such a place exist in a time when humanity was supposed to be living in small, scattered tribes, hunting and gathering for survival? How could a culture without agriculture, without writing, without metal tools, create something so massive, so intricately detailed, so sophisticated? The pillars rise from the earth like silent sentinels, their intricate carvings weathered by thousands of years, yet still telling their story in the language of stone. What do these carvings mean? Why are so many of the images of animals, lions, boars, vultures and serpents, etched so precisely, their forms so vivid that they seem to move in the light? What stories do these creatures tell? And what did they represent to the people who carved them? The site itself seems to breathe, to pulse with the weight of its age. There is an eerie stillness that surrounds the place, yet it is not an emptiness. It is a fullness, a presence, as though something ancient and powerful still lingers here, just beyond the reach of our understanding. As you walk among the pillars, the past becomes tangible, close enough to touch, to feel. Göbekli Tepe sits on a hill, isolated, almost forgotten by time. Yet it has survived, hidden beneath the layers of earth, waiting to reveal its secrets to those who are ready to listen. It is a place that feels like a doorway, an entry point into another world, one that existed long before the first cities rose in Mesopotamia or the first pyramids were built in Egypt. The first people to build Göbekli Tepe were not supposed to be capable of such a feat. These were hunter-gatherers, people who had not yet discovered the concept of farming, who lived off the land in ways that seem primitive by today's standards. Yet, here they were, carving massive stones, moving them into place with skill and precision, creating something that would endure for millennia. How could they have done this without the tools, the technology, or the knowledge that we associate with the rise of civilization? It is this question that hangs over Göbekli Tepe like a shadow. It is a question that has baffled archaeologists, historians, and scholars for decades. How could such a complex, sophisticated site exist in a time before the advent of agriculture? How could these people, living in a world that was still largely untamed create something so monumental, so purposeful, and so full of meaning? The answers are elusive, hidden in the carvings and the arrangement of the stones, buried beneath the earth and the passage of time. But there is no denying the significance of Göbekli Tepe. It is a site that forces us to rethink our understanding of history, of human progress, and of the very nature of civilization itself. As the sun rises higher, the ancient stones stand tall and silent, watching over the land, waiting for the next chapter of their story to unfold. There are no names to be found here, no inscriptions that tell us who built Göbekli Tepe or why. Only the stone pillars stand as silent witnesses to a time long past, their surfaces etched with images of animals and symbols that we have yet to fully understand. But who were the hands that carved them? Who were the builders of this extraordinary site, and what drove them to create such a monument? Theories abound, but none can claim to offer a definitive answer. Some believe that the builders were shamans, visionaries who saw beyond the physical world and into the spiritual realm. Others suggest that they were members of a forgotten civilization, a culture that existed long before the rise of the Sumerians or the Egyptians. There are even those who propose that Göbekli Tepe was constructed by survivors of a great cataclysm, people who had witnessed the destruction of a much older world and sought to preserve its knowledge in stone. Each theory offers a glimpse into the mystery, but none can answer the question fully. What we do know is that the people who built Göbekli Tepe were not like the societies we are familiar with. They were not part of the ancient cultures that built cities, created writing, or developed complex systems of government. They were not agriculturalists, and they did not have access to the technologies that we associate with the construction of monumental structures. Yet, they built something that seems to defy the very laws of history. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe are massive, some weighing as much as 20 tons. The builders had no metal tools, no machinery to help them move these stones. How did they manage to quarry the stones, transport them across the rugged landscape, and set them into place with such precision? The answer, of course, is that we don't know. The methods used by the builders remain a mystery, as does their motivation for undertaking such a massive project. One theory is that the site was used for ritual purposes, that it served as a gathering place for shamans or spiritual leaders. The carvings of animals, some of which are fantastical, combining features of different creatures, could represent the totems or symbols of different tribes or clans, each one coming together to worship, to communicate with the gods, or to perform sacred rituals. The stone pillars themselves could have been seen as living entities, imbued with spiritual power, representing a connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. But what if the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not simply religious practitioners, but the remnants of an older civilization? Could this be the legacy of a people who were once highly advanced, but whose culture was lost to time? Some theorists suggest that Göbekli Tepe is the product of a much older civilization, one that existed long before the rise of agriculture and writing. This civilization, they propose, could have been destroyed in a cataclysmic event, leaving behind only the ruins of their knowledge, ruins that would later be uncovered by those who came after. This theory raises many questions. If such a civilization existed, why do we have no record of it? Why is there no evidence of its cities, its writings, or its technologies? Some believe that the answer lies in the possibility of a global catastrophe, a cataclysm that wiped out entire civilizations and erased all trace of their existence. If such an event occurred, it could have set humanity back to a state of near total ignorance, leaving only the barest remnants of the knowledge and culture that once flourished. Another possibility is that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were survivors of such a catastrophe, people who had witnessed the destruction of their world and sought to preserve its wisdom and knowledge in a form that could endure. The massive stone pillars, with their carvings of animals and symbols, could be seen as a form of record-keeping, a way to pass on knowledge to future generations, ensuring that the wisdom of the past would not be forgotten. In either case, the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not the simple hunter-gatherers that we once believed them to be. They were people who understood the power of stone, of symbols, and of the natural world. They were visionaries who sought to communicate with the forces that shaped their lives, whether through ritual, knowledge, or something far more ancient. As you stand amidst the pillars of Göbekli Tepe, you feel the weight of their mystery pressing in on you. These stones are not just relics of the past. They are a message, a puzzle that has yet to be solved. And as the sun rises higher, you are left to wonder, who were these people? And what was their connection to the ancient world? The answer may lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. But for now, the stones remain silent, their secrets hidden in the shadows. The wind stirs the dust, swirling it around the towering pillars as the sun dips low on the horizon, casting long shadows over the sacred site of Göbekli Tepe. It is at this time, in the golden hour of the day, that the air itself seems to hum with ancient energy. The stone pillars rise from the earth like silent sentinels, their surfaces weathered by time, but still bearing the faint traces of their creator's hands. Each pillar seems to pulse with a kind of life, an essence that speaks to something far older, far more powerful than we could ever imagine. What were the builders of Göbekli Tepe trying to achieve? What drove them to invest so much time, effort, and energy into this massive, intricate site? The answer may lie not in the physical structure itself, but in the purpose for which it was created, a purpose that seems to transcend time and place. Could this site have been more than just a gathering place, more than a simple temple or ritual space? Perhaps it was a place where the very fabric of reality itself was altered, where the veil between the physical and the spiritual was thinnest. Imagine, if you will, the scene as it might have appeared thousands of years ago. The massive pillars, each one carved with vivid depictions of animals, lions, vultures, snakes, and other creatures, stand in a perfect circle. The air is heavy with anticipation. Figures dressed in simple robes move around the pillars, their footsteps light but purposeful. Their faces are drawn in deep concentration, eyes fixed on the stones, as though waiting for something to happen, something to reveal itself. It is a moment of great significance, a moment in which the mundane world and the spiritual realm converge. The rituals that took place at Göbekli Tepe were likely tied to the natural world, to the forces of life and death, light and darkness, creation and destruction. The animals carved into the stones were not mere decorations. They were symbols, representations of forces that governed the lives of the people who built this place. Lions, for example, were symbols of power and strength, creatures that commanded respect and reverence. Snakes, with their ability to shed their skins, were likely associated with transformation and renewal. Vultures, ever watchful, may have been connected to death and the cycle of life. But beyond the symbolism of the animals themselves, there was something else, a deeper, more profound meaning embedded within the very structure of the site. Was it possible that the builders of Göbekli Tepe saw the site not just as a physical space, but as a portal, a gateway to another realm? Could they have believed that through ritual and reverence, they could commune with the divine, or even with the forces of the cosmos? The sheer complexity of the site suggests that this was no ordinary temple. This was a place where the boundaries between worlds were believed to be malleable, where human hands could reach out and touch the gods. There is a theory that the central circle at Göbekli Tepe was a kind of ritual or teaching space, where initiates gathered to receive sacred knowledge, to learn the mysteries of life and death, and to gain insight into the forces that shaped their world. It is possible that the site was not just a place of worship, but a place of transformation, where those who entered left not just physically changed, but spiritually awakened, their consciousness expanded by the rituals that took place within the stone circle. One can almost feel the presence of the builders, their voices faint echoes in the wind as they gather in the center of the circle, their hands raised in unison, their voices chanting in time with the rhythms of the earth. It is a vision of connection, of the ancient people reaching out, not just to the gods, but to each other, as they shared in the mysteries of the universe. And as the rituals unfold, the very stones themselves seem to come alive, vibrating with energy, as though they, too, are participants in the sacred act. This, perhaps, is the true power of Göbekli Tepe. Not the stone pillars themselves, but the energy they contain, the energy they were designed to channel. The builders, in their wisdom, understood the importance of place, of alignment, of energy. They knew that this was not just a gathering space. It was a space where the laws of nature, the forces of the universe, could be manipulated, harnessed, and understood. In this sense, Göbekli Tepe was not just a monument. It was a living, breathing entity, an instrument of connection between the known and the unknown. As the sun sets, casting the site in a soft, otherworldly glow, the ritual draws to a close. The figures begin to disperse, their faces calm, their spirits lifted by the experience they have just shared. And yet, the air still crackles with energy, as though the echoes of the ritual linger, hanging in the wind, waiting to be felt by those who stand in the circle long after the last participant has gone. Göbekli Tepe is a place that challenges our understanding of history, a place that forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the rise of human civilization. Its existence, its complexity, its sheer scale, all point to something far beyond the capabilities of the people we once believed built it. But what makes Göbekli Tepe even more perplexing is its timing. According to our traditional understanding of history, this site should not exist. It predates the rise of agriculture, the birth of writing, and the establishment of permanent settlements. Yet here it stands, a monument to a civilization that should never have been possible. In the conventional narrative of human history, the story of civilization unfolds in a neat, linear progression. First comes the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, followed by the discovery of agriculture, which leads to the rise of cities, writing, and complex societies. But Göbekli Tepe shatters this narrative. It suggests that human societies were capable of far more than we ever imagined at a much earlier stage of development. The site dates back to around 9600 BCE, a time when humans were still living in small, nomadic groups, hunting and gathering for sustenance. Yet, at Göbekli Tepe, we see a level of sophistication and organization that should not have been possible at this stage in human history. The construction of the massive stone pillars, some weighing as much as 20 tons, would have required a level of coordination and resources that simply should not have existed among hunter-gatherer societies. How could these people, with no metal tools and no permanent settlements, have moved such massive stones? How could they have carved such intricate and detailed reliefs, depicting animals and symbols that still elude our understanding? The answer, of course, is that we don't know. Göbekli Tepe raises far more questions than it answers, and the mysteries it presents have only deepened as excavation has continued. Some scholars believe that the site's construction was tied to the development of ritual and religion, suggesting that the people who built it were motivated not by practical concerns, but by a need to connect with the spiritual realm. This theory proposes that Göbekli Tepe was a ceremonial center, a place where rituals and ceremonies were conducted to honor the gods, the seasons, or the forces of nature. But even this explanation only raises more questions. Why would a society that was still in the early stages of development build such a massive and complex site for religious purposes? What drove them to invest so much energy and resources into something that seems, at first glance, entirely impractical? One theory is that Göbekli Tepe was not built by the hunter-gatherers we think of, but rather by a much older civilization, one that was far more advanced than we give credit for. Could it be that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were the remnants of a long-lost culture, one that had knowledge and technologies that were lost in a cataclysmic event? Some believe that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were survivors of a global disaster, their civilization wiped out by an event that forced humanity back into a primitive state. The massive stones of Göbekli Tepe, they argue, are all that remain of this lost civilization, a civilization that left behind only these enigmatic ruins as a testament to its once great achievements. Whatever the true story of Göbekli Tepe may be, one thing is clear. It forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about the rise of human civilization. The site is a reminder that history is not a straight line, but a complex web of interconnected events, some of which have been lost to time. Göbekli Tepe is more than just a site. It is a puzzle, a riddle waiting to be solved. And as we continue to uncover its secrets, we may be forced to rewrite the very history of humanity. The land at Göbekli Tepe is timeless. Its barren hills, scarred by the passage of millennia, seem to have preserved something forgotten. A whisper of an ancient age when humanity's story was still unfolding. A story that, like so many other early narratives, began with agriculture, or so we thought. Göbekli Tepe is a site that should not exist, a relic of a past that was not supposed to be there. The people who built it, long before the rise of agriculture, may have created something that predates our understanding of civilization itself. Could it be that the birth of agriculture, the very cornerstone of modern human civilization, was not the first step for humanity after all? Göbekli Tepe, at roughly 9600 BCE, stands in stark contrast to everything we once thought we knew about the evolution of societies. Traditionally, the development of agriculture marked the transition from a primitive, nomadic existence to settled, advanced civilizations. Agriculture allowed humans to settle, to form communities, to build cities. But Göbekli Tepe's very existence undermines this linear story. Here, in a place where humans were still hunter-gatherers, a highly complex and sophisticated structure was built, predating the cultivation of crops by thousands of years. How could this be? How could these nomadic people, who had yet to embrace agriculture, possess the knowledge and skill to construct such a monumental site? The answer may lie not in the chronology we know, but in the possibilities we've overlooked. Perhaps Göbekli Tepe was not the final step in a slow progression toward farming, but a glimpse into an earlier, forgotten chapter of human history, one that does not follow the neat and linear path we've come to believe. The theory of an agricultural revolution being the starting point for human progress has been central to our understanding of how societies advanced. It was a leap that allowed humans to control their environment, harvest food, and create surpluses. But what if the people of Göbekli Tepe already understood something deeper? What if they had a connection to the natural world that allowed them to build something that would be viewed as impossible without needing agriculture or the complex systems we associate with civilization? It is possible that the people who built Göbekli Tepe were not necessarily an anomaly, but part of a wider understanding of the human potential that is yet to be fully understood. There is something deeply unsettling about the site's existence, something that unsettles the very foundations of the progress model. Here was a group of people who understood architecture, symbolism, and astronomical alignment. They had the capability to bring together resources, to carve massive stones, and to organize the labor to build such a structure, all without the tools we associate with these accomplishments. What made these early humans so different from those we now consider the first agriculturalists? This question opens up new possibilities. Was Göbekli Tepe the product of a culture that had a different, more sustainable relationship with the land? Perhaps they were not as reliant on agriculture as we believe societies to have been. It's possible they had mastered a symbiotic relationship with the natural environment, understanding the cycles of life and death, the rhythms of the earth, in ways that bypass the need for agriculture as we know it. Could they have been spiritual seekers, building this site not as a place to live, but as a place to connect with the divine forces that shaped their world? Were they perhaps foreseeing the necessity for agriculture, yet holding on to older, sacred traditions that they would eventually leave behind? The idea that Göbekli Tepe predates agriculture, or that it was built in a time before farming took root, forces us to reconsider the origins of human progress. It suggests that we may have misinterpreted the timeline of human development, pushing the dawn of civilization further back in time, to an era when complex societies could have existed in ways we never imagined. The site at Göbekli Tepe, as out of place as it may seem, may be a clue to an earlier civilization, one that was perhaps trying to keep something alive before the forces of change overtook it. Maybe agriculture was not the natural progression, but a necessary reinvention, one that came to define the story we now know. Göbekli Tepe is a challenge to our assumptions about progress. It asks us to look beyond the linear models of civilization and consider the possibility that human development was not a single path, but a series of branching roads, some of which may have been lost to time. In that sense, Göbekli Tepe is not just a monument to a forgotten age. It is a challenge to the very idea that humanity's story follows the path we have always believed. The mysteries of Göbekli Tepe do not exist in isolation. Hidden within the same rugged landscape of southeastern Turkey, just a short distance from Göbekli Tepe, lies another enigma waiting to be uncovered: Göbekli Tepe. This second site, while not as widely known or excavated as its famous counterpart, bears striking similarities to the first. Together they weave a story of a forgotten culture, a complex network of sacred spaces, and an ancient knowledge that continues to elude modern understanding. Göbekli Tepe, like Göbekli Tepe, consists of large stone pillars arranged in circles, with intricate carvings depicting animals, abstract symbols, and mysterious figures. The similarities between the two sites are undeniable, yet they also offer new clues about the people who built them. While Göbekli Tepe stands as the more famous of the two, with its towering monolithic pillars and highly detailed carvings, Göbekli Tepe adds another layer of mystery, suggesting that the culture responsible for these structures may have been even more widespread than we initially thought. The presence of another site so close to Göbekli Tepe raises an intriguing question. Were these two places connected? Were they part of a larger network of sacred spaces, each one designed to serve a unique function? Or were they part of a broader cultural tradition shared by a civilization whose full extent remains hidden beneath the soil? As more of Göbekli Tepe is uncovered, it becomes clear that the similarities between the two sites are not accidental. They were built by the same people, with the same purpose in mind: to create a place where the divine could be communed with, where the secrets of the universe could be unlocked through ritual and ceremony. What sets Göbekli Tepe apart from Göbekli Tepe is the scale. While Göbekli Tepe is grand and imposing, Göbekli Tepe is smaller, more intimate. Its stones are less massive, and its carvings are more abstract, almost as if the builders were trying to capture something more subtle, more elusive. This difference in scale and style may be an indication that the two sites served different functions within the same religious or cultural context. Göbekli Tepe, with its towering pillars, may have been a place for public rituals, while Göbekli Tepe, with its more refined carvings, may have been reserved for private, more intimate ceremonies, perhaps for a select group of initiates or spiritual leaders. The key to understanding the connection between the two sites may lie in the shared symbolism found in the carvings. Both sites feature images of animals: lions, snakes, vultures, and other creatures, each of which carries deep spiritual significance. These animals were likely seen as symbols of divine forces, representing different aspects of life and death, creation and destruction. At both sites, these animals are not just decorative. They are integral to the very fabric of the space, etched into the stone as if to communicate something greater than mere ornamentation. The carvings at both Göbekli Tepe and Göbekli Tepe suggest a deep understanding of the natural world, of the cycles of life and death, and of the forces that govern the universe. It is as if the builders of these sites were attempting to bridge the gap between the physical and spiritual realms, using the stones as a means of channeling energy, of aligning the natural world with the divine. The pillars at both sites, with their animal carvings and abstract symbols, may have been more than just monuments. They may have been tools, instruments designed to tap into the hidden forces of the universe. What is particularly striking about Göbekli Tepe is its potential to deepen our understanding of Göbekli Tepe. As more research is conducted, it becomes increasingly clear that these two sites were not just isolated anomalies in the landscape. They were part of a larger cultural tradition, one that was built upon shared beliefs, shared knowledge, and shared rituals. Together, they form a picture of a people who were connected, not just by geography, but by a spiritual and intellectual tradition that spanned generations. Göbekli Tepe, like its more famous counterpart, remains a mystery. But it is a mystery that beckons, a puzzle waiting to be solved. The connection between these two sites offers a tantalizing glimpse into the lives of the people who built them, a people whose knowledge, vision, and understanding of the world continue to resonate through the ages, hidden in the stone and waiting to be discovered once more. As the sun climbs higher, casting its warm golden light over the ancient pillars, there is an eerie stillness that hangs over Göbekli Tepe. The stones, massive and weathered, rise from the earth like forgotten sentinels, etched with symbols and carvings that speak in a language lost to time. What do these symbols mean? Why are the animals carved into the stones, lions, vultures, snakes, so vivid, so lifelike? What secrets do they hold, and what knowledge were the builders trying to preserve within these stones? The carvings at Göbekli Tepe are not just decorative. They are a record, a message, but the message is not easily understood. The symbols are enigmatic, their meanings obscure, as if the people who created them knew that only those who truly understood the deeper mysteries of the world could decipher their significance. Some of the carvings seem to depict animals in intricate detail, while others are abstract, almost otherworldly in their design. What was the purpose of these images? Were they representations of gods, spiritual beings, or sacred forces? Or were they something else entirely? A map, a key, a code waiting to be unlocked? Among the most striking symbols at Göbekli Tepe are the animals: lions, boars, vultures, snakes, each one carefully carved, each one placed with purpose and meaning. The lion, a symbol of strength and power, stands as a reminder of the wild forces that ruled the ancient world. The vulture, ever watchful, may have symbolized death, the cycle of life and death that the people of Göbekli Tepe understood so well. The snake, shedding its skin, may have represented transformation, renewal, and the endless flow of life. But what of the other creatures? Those whose meanings remain hidden in the shadows of time. Some believe that the animals at Göbekli Tepe represent the totems of the tribes that once gathered here, each animal a symbol of a particular group or clan. Others suggest that the carvings are not merely representations of earthly creatures, but manifestations of spiritual or cosmic forces. The animals could have been seen as embodiments of the gods, or perhaps as messengers from the divine. The people of Göbekli Tepe may have believed that these animals held the keys to the mysteries of the universe, and that by carving them into stone, they were preserving a sacred knowledge that would guide future generations. But the symbolism at Göbekli Tepe is not limited to animals. Among the intricate carvings, there are also abstract symbols, geometric shapes, spirals, and lines that seem to speak a language beyond the physical world. These shapes, though seemingly simple, may carry profound meaning, suggesting a deeper understanding of the cosmos, of the laws that govern the universe. Could these symbols be a form of ancient writing, a script used by the builders to record their knowledge, their history, their beliefs? Or are they something else? A form of spiritual code, a language of symbols that speaks directly to the soul, bypassing the need for words. The abstract symbols at Göbekli Tepe are unlike anything found in other ancient cultures. They are not the simple pictographs of early writing systems. nor are they the elaborate religious symbols of later civilizations. Instead, they are complex, intricate, and highly stylized, as though they were meant to convey something deeper, something that transcends the limitations of language. These symbols may have been part of a spiritual system, a way for the builders to communicate with the divine, to understand the mysteries of the universe, and to unlock the secrets of existence. As the wind shifts and the shadows lengthen, one can almost hear the whispers of the past, the voices of those who once carved these symbols into stone. What were they trying to tell us? What did they understand that we do not? The symbols at Göbekli Tepe are not just relics of a long-lost civilization. They are a doorway to a deeper understanding of the world, a glimpse into the minds of the people who built this sacred site. The mystery of these symbols is not just academic, it is personal. For anyone who stands in the circle of Göbekli Tepe, there is a sense of being part of something much larger than oneself. The stones, the carvings, the animals, everything seems to be speaking in a language that is beyond words, a language that speaks directly to the soul. The symbols may be cryptic, but they are not silent. They hold a message that is waiting to be heard, waiting to be understood. The challenge is not in deciphering the symbols themselves, but in opening ourselves to the possibility that they contain a truth that transcends time and space. In the quiet stillness of Göbekli Tepe, amid the towering stones and intricate carvings, there is a sense of something else, something deeper, more elusive. It is as though the very air is charged with energy, as if the site itself is a conduit between the physical world and something far beyond. Could it be that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were shamans, visionaries, who saw the world not just as it appeared, but as something far more mystical, far more interconnected? Was this site, with its intricate carvings, its symbolic animals, and its astronomical alignments, a place where the spiritual and physical realms converged? The idea that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were shamans is not just speculation, it is a theory that gains traction when one considers the nature of the site itself. Shamans, in many ancient cultures, were seen as the intermediaries between the human and the divine, those who could move between worlds, who could communicate with spirits, gods, and ancestors. They were the keepers of ancient knowledge, the ones who understood the hidden forces that shaped the world. At Göbekli Tepe, the carvings, the alignment of the pillars, and the symbolism all point to a deep spiritual purpose. Could it be that the builders of this site were not just craftsmen, but shamans, people who used the site as a portal to the divine, as a place where they could commune with the forces of the universe? The pillars at Göbekli Tepe, with their animal carvings and geometric shapes, may not just be representations of the physical world, they may be gateways to another realm. The carvings of lions, snakes, vultures, and other creatures may not just symbolize earthly animals, but the spirits of those animals, the energies they embodied. Shamans often used animal spirits in their rituals, calling upon the power of animals to guide them through their spiritual journeys. The animals at Göbekli Tepe could have served a similar purpose, acting as symbols of the forces that the shamans sought to harness, to communicate with, and to understand. In many ancient cultures, sacred spaces were constructed with specific alignments to the stars, the sun, and the moon. Göbekli Tepe is no exception. The positioning of the pillars, the arrangement of the stones, and the carvings on the pillars all suggest that the site had a cosmic significance, that it was not just a place for rituals, but a place designed to align with the forces of the cosmos, to tap into the energies of the universe. Shamans often saw the movements of the stars and the cycles of nature as divine messages, as signs from the gods. Could it be that Göbekli Tepe was a place where these messages could be received, where the shamans could interpret the will of the divine through the alignment of the stones and the stars? But the connection to shamanism goes deeper still. The very act of building Göbekli Tepe, the effort required to move massive stones, to carve intricate designs, to align the pillars with such precision suggests a deep connection to the spiritual world. Shamans were not just spiritual leaders, they were also healers, teachers, and guides. They understood the power of symbols, of rituals, of sound and movement. The construction of Göbekli Tepe may have been a ritual in itself, a process of creating a space that could hold the power of the cosmos, a space where the builders could reach out to the divine. There is a sense, when standing amidst the pillars of Göbekli Tepe, that the site is alive, that it holds a kind of energy, a presence that transcends time. The stones, carved with images of animals, symbols, and geometric shapes, seem to hold a story, one that is still waiting to be told. Perhaps the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not just creating a monument to the gods, but a space where they could commune with the divine, where they could receive guidance, knowledge, and power. In this way, Göbekli Tepe is not just an archaeological site, it is a living testament to the spiritual vision of a people who saw the world as a place where the physical and spiritual realms were interconnected, where the forces of nature, the stars and the gods, could all be called upon to shape the destiny of humankind. Göbekli Tepe, with its animal carvings, its geometric symbols, and its alignment with the cosmos, is not just a relic of a lost civilization. It is a window into the spiritual practices of the people who built it. It is a place where the lines between the physical and the spiritual blurred, where the forces of nature and the divine were understood and revered. And perhaps, just perhaps, the shamans of Göbekli Tepe were trying to tell us something, to show us a way to connect with the world beyond what we can see. Beneath the dust and debris of the ages, hidden in the very stones of Göbekli Tepe, lies a riddle that has baffled scholars and archaeologists for decades. It is a riddle that stretches far beyond the known history of humankind, reaching into a time so ancient that it seems to defy all logic, all understanding. The construction of Göbekli Tepe, with its massive stones, intricate carvings, and purposefully designed layout, points to something greater than just the work of early hunter-gatherers. It suggests the presence of a civilization long forgotten, a people whose story has been erased by time, whose knowledge and achievements have vanished without a trace. What if the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not simply the forerunners of the first known civilizations, like the Sumerians or the Egyptians, but the last remnants of an ancient, highly advanced culture, one that existed long before agriculture took root, one whose knowledge of the cosmos, architecture, and spiritual practices far surpassed that of the societies we associate with the dawn of civilization? Could Göbekli Tepe be the product of a civilization that was destroyed in a cataclysmic event, its legacy reduced to nothing but the silent stone pillars that now rise from the earth? This is the theory that some researchers propose, the idea that Göbekli Tepe is not merely the earliest example of a new age of civilization, but a testament to a much older world, one that has been lost to the annals of time. According to this theory, the builders of Göbekli Tepe were the survivors of a great disaster, a cataclysmic event that wiped out entire cultures and civilizations, leaving only a few scattered remnants behind. These survivors, those who remained after the destruction, may have sought to preserve the knowledge of their once great civilization in the form of the massive stone pillars, using the site as a sanctuary for the sacred knowledge that had been passed down through the ages. The idea of a forgotten civilization is not new. Throughout history, many cultures have spoken of a great, ancient civilization that once existed but was destroyed by some cataclysm. The ancient Greeks spoke of Atlantis, a mythical island civilization said to have been lost beneath the sea. In the Middle East, the Bible recounts the destruction of the Tower of Babel, a symbol of human ambition and pride. Could Göbekli Tepe, with its seemingly out-of-place complexity and sophistication, be the last remaining trace of such a lost civilization, a civilization that existed long before agriculture or written language? To understand this theory, one must look at the evidence that suggests Göbekli Tepe was not just an isolated site created by primitive tribes. The sheer scale and complexity of the site raise questions about how it could have been built, without the advanced knowledge and technologies that were thought to have developed much later in history. The precise alignment of the pillars, the intricate carvings of animals and abstract symbols, and the architectural sophistication of the site all point to a level of knowledge and planning that should not have been possible at the time. Could it be that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were inheritors of an older civilization, one that had developed these techniques long before they were lost to the world? The possibility that Göbekli Tepe is the work of a forgotten civilization raises further questions about the nature of that civilization. If the builders of Göbekli Tepe were the survivors of a lost culture, what happened to the rest of their civilization? Was it destroyed in a global catastrophe, a cosmic event that wiped out entire cultures in a single moment? Some theories suggest that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were part of a worldwide network of cultures that shared a common knowledge of the stars, the earth, and the cosmos. A catastrophe, they argue, could have destroyed this network, leaving only isolated pockets of survivors who sought to preserve the knowledge of their ancestors. The idea of a lost civilization is tantalizing, but it also presents many challenges. If such a civilization existed, why is there no direct evidence of it? No cities, no writings, no artifacts, apart from the enigmatic site of Göbekli Tepe? The answer, according to some researchers, may lie in the nature of the disaster that wiped out this civilization. Perhaps the event was so catastrophic that it left no trace of the culture that preceded it. Perhaps the survivors of this event were left with only the stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe as a reminder of the world they once knew. What we do know for certain is that Göbekli Tepe is far older than any of the known civilizations that followed it. It is a site that challenges our understanding of history and forces us to reconsider the narrative of human development. If the builders of Göbekli Tepe were indeed survivors of an ancient forgotten civilization, then their story is one that has been lost to time, a story that is waiting to be uncovered, buried beneath the weight of centuries and the erosion of the ages. As the sun sets over the site, casting long shadows across the stone pillars, one can't help but feel the weight of the past pressing in. The question remains, what was lost when this civilization disappeared, and what knowledge did they leave behind? As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a soft golden light over the towering stones of Göbekli Tepe, one cannot help but feel the weight of the ancient past pressing in. There is a sense of mystery that hangs over the site, an energy that seems to pulse from the very stones themselves. It is as though the builders of Göbekli Tepe knew something that we have forgotten, something that connects us to the stars, to the very cosmos itself. The question lingers, was Göbekli Tepe more than just a ceremonial site? Was it perhaps a monument to the stars? Göbekli Tepe's design is not random. It is deliberate, purposeful, and deeply connected to the celestial bodies above. The alignment of the stone pillars at Göbekli Tepe suggests that the builders had a profound understanding of the stars, the movements of the planets, and the cycles of the heavens. The site is believed by many to have been used for astronomical purposes, serving as a kind of observatory, a place where the movements of the stars and planets could be tracked and studied. The alignment of the pillars at Göbekli Tepe is striking. Many of the pillars are positioned in a way that suggests they were used to mark the position of certain celestial bodies. The builders of Göbekli Tepe may have used these alignments to track the movement of the sun, the moon, and the stars, connecting the earth below to the heavens above. This understanding of the cosmos is not just a curiosity, it is a key to understanding the spiritual significance of the site. For the people who built Göbekli Tepe, the stars were not distant objects in the sky. They were living entities, divine forces that shaped the world and the lives of those who lived beneath them. It is possible that Göbekli Tepe was not just a place for ritual and ceremony, but a place where the builders sought to align themselves with the cosmic forces that governed their world. The placement of the pillars may have been intended to create a connection between the earth and the heavens, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. In this sense, the site was not just a physical structure, It was a living, breathing monument to the stars, a reflection of the deep connection between the people and the cosmos. The idea of Göbekli Tepe as a monument to the stars also raises questions about the knowledge of the builders. How did they know so much about the movements of the stars and planets? How were they able to align the massive stones with such precision, without the use of modern tools or technologies? Some researchers believe that the builders of Göbekli Tepe may have had access to ancient knowledge passed down through generations, knowledge that was linked to the stars and the heavens. This knowledge could have been part of a larger system of wisdom, one that connected the physical world to the divine. In many ancient cultures, the stars were seen as gods or spiritual beings, and their movements were believed to influence the fate of the world. The builders of Göbekli Tepe may have viewed the alignment of the stones as a way of honoring these divine forces, of bringing their presence into the physical world. The site may have served as a kind of portal, a place where the earthly and the celestial could meet, where the movements of the stars could be observed and understood. Göbekli Tepe is not just a monument to the past, it is a testament to the profound connection between humanity and the cosmos. The alignment of the pillars, the positioning of the stones, and the intricate carvings all point to a people who understood the stars in a way that we are only beginning to comprehend. In a time when humanity had not yet discovered writing or developed the tools of civilization, the builders of Göbekli Tepe were already attuned to the rhythms of the universe, seeking to connect with the forces that governed their world. As the stars begin to appear in the night sky, their light shimmering over the ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe, one cannot help but feel the sense of wonder that the builders must have felt. They looked up at the same stars that we see today, and they saw something more, something that connected them to the divine, to the eternal forces that shape the cosmos. In building Göbekli Tepe, they did not just create a site for rituals or ceremonies, they created a monument to the stars, a symbol of the profound connection between humanity and the heavens. As the wind whispers through the ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe, there is an undeniable sense that this sacred site was not just a gathering place for everyday people, but a space reserved for something far more profound. It was a place where the spiritual and physical realms intersected, where rituals and ceremonies were performed with an understanding of forces beyond what we can comprehend. But who were the individuals responsible for these sacred rites? Who held the knowledge that could tap into these ancient energies, align the heavens with the earth, and communicate with the divine? The answer, it seems, lies with the priesthood, the spiritual leaders who may have been the true architects of Göbekli Tepe's mysteries. Imagine for a moment the scene at Göbekli Tepe as it once was, an open space marked by massive stone pillars, each one etched with symbols and images of animals. The air is heavy with the scent of incense and the murmur of ritualistic chants, as the priesthood prepares to lead the people in sacred ceremonies. These priests, with their deep knowledge of the cosmos, the earth, and the divine, would have guided the spiritual practices that took place here, ensuring that the forces of the universe were in harmony with the people below. The role of the priesthood at Göbekli Tepe would have been far more than just a ceremonial one. They were not mere ritual leaders. They were the keepers of knowledge, the ones who understood the mysteries of life, death, and the cosmos. They were the mediators between the gods and the people, those who could navigate the unseen realms and bring forth the wisdom of the divine. It is likely that the builders of Göbekli Tepe, with their sophisticated understanding of symbolism, alignment, and ritual, were part of a religious order, a group of spiritual guides whose role was to facilitate the connection between the earthly and the divine. The priesthood of Göbekli Tepe may have been highly trained in esoteric knowledge, knowledge that was passed down through generations, possibly encoded in the very carvings and symbols found at the site. These individuals would have been the ones who understood the deeper meaning behind the animal symbols, the abstract designs, and the celestial alignments. Their understanding of these symbols would have been key to unlocking the power and spiritual significance of the site. In many ancient cultures, the priesthood was not just a religious institution, but a political one as well. The priests were often the ones who held power, as they controlled access to the divine and to the knowledge that could influence the course of history. At Göbekli Tepe, it is possible that the priesthood wielded significant power, not only in the spiritual realm, but also in the social and political structures of the time. The priests were the ones who interpreted the will of the gods, who communicated with the divine through ritual and sacrifice, and who guided the people in times of change or uncertainty. The physical layout of Göbekli Tepe may have been designed with the priesthood in mind. The central circle of pillars could have served as the focal point for rituals, with the priests standing at the center, conducting ceremonies and offering guidance to the people. The animal carvings, many of which are highly detailed and lifelike, may have been seen as representations of the divine forces that the priests sought to commune with, each animal symbolizing a different aspect of the universe. The alignment of the pillars could have been strategically placed to coincide with celestial events, allowing the priests to harness the energy of the stars and planets during rituals. The presence of the priesthood at Göbekli Tepe is also suggested by the elaborate nature of the site itself. The time and effort required to construct such a monumental structure would have been beyond the capabilities of ordinary people. It is likely that the priesthood was instrumental in overseeing the construction, guiding the workers, and ensuring that the site was built according to the sacred principles that governed their beliefs. The priesthood may have been the ones who held the knowledge of how to move and shape the massive stones, how to align them with celestial bodies, and how to carve the intricate symbols that adorn the pillars. Yet, despite the significant role the priesthood would have played in the creation and use of Göbekli Tepe, their story remains largely invisible to us. Like the builders themselves, the priests left no written records, no direct evidence of their teachings or their practices. What we know of them is inferred through the symbols, the architecture, and the layout of the site, each pillar and carving a piece of the puzzle, hinting at the spiritual wisdom that guided the hands of the builders. The mystery of the priesthood at Göbekli Tepe is, in many ways, the heart of the site itself. It is through their connection to the divine that the sacred space was created, and it is through their knowledge of the cosmos that the site was brought to life. As you stand among the towering pillars, it is easy to imagine the priesthood at work, their chants echoing through the site, their hands raised in reverence to the gods. The stones seem to hum with a deep, ancient energy, as though they are imbued with the very knowledge and power that the priests sought to channel. The priesthood was not just the caretakers of the site, they were the keepers of its secrets, the ones who understood its true purpose. And while their physical presence may have faded into history, their influence continues to resonate in the stones that stand silent and proud, waiting to reveal their mysteries. Göbekli Tepe stands as a testament to the ingenuity and vision of the people who built it, a site that challenges our understanding of ancient human capabilities. The scale, complexity, and precision of the structure defy the conventional timeline of human development. How could a society of hunter-gatherers, with no access to metal tools or advanced technologies, have built something so monumental? The answer, for some, lies in the possibility of lost technology, while others point to divine intervention as the source of this ancient knowledge. Could the builders of Göbekli Tepe have had access to technologies far beyond what we now associate with their time? Or was there something more mysterious, something otherworldly, at play? The theory of lost technology suggests that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not simply primitive peoples, but part of an older, more advanced civilization. According to this theory, the builders may have had access to tools, techniques, or knowledge that have since been lost to time. The precision with which the massive stones were carved and moved, some weighing up to 20 tons, suggests that the builders had skills and technologies that we do not fully understand. It is possible that they had access to methods for shaping stone that have been lost over the centuries, techniques that allowed them to work with such heavy materials without the need for modern machinery. Some researchers suggest that the ancient people who built Göbekli Tepe may have had knowledge of advanced mathematics, geometry, and astronomy, knowledge that would have allowed them to align the site with such precision. The alignment of the pillars with celestial bodies, the careful placement of stones, and the intricate carvings all point to a deep understanding of the natural world, one that transcends what we typically associate with hunter-gatherer societies. Could the builders have had access to knowledge passed down from a lost civilization, or were they simply the inheritors of ancient secrets that had been hidden away for millennia? On the other hand, there is a theory that suggests divine intervention played a role in the creation of Göbekli Tepe. According to this view, the builders were guided by otherworldly beings who imparted knowledge to them in ways that are beyond our understanding. The alignment of the pillars with celestial events, the symbolic carvings, and the apparent spiritual purpose of the site suggest that the builders were not simply following human instinct or intelligence, but were guided by a higher power. In this scenario, the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not just architects or craftsmen. They were instruments of a divine will, creating a site that would bridge the gap between the human and the divine. While there is no concrete evidence to support the idea of divine intervention, the sheer complexity and scale of Göbekli Tepe raise important questions about the capabilities of ancient peoples. Could it be that they had access to knowledge, wisdom, or even divine guidance that we cannot yet comprehend? The mystery of Göbekli Tepe is not just about its construction, it is about the forces, whether technological or divine, that made it possible. The answer may lie in the stones themselves, waiting to be uncovered, as we continue to explore the mysteries of this ancient site. Göbekli Tepe is not an isolated mystery. It is part of a much larger, intricate puzzle that stretches across ancient civilizations, cultures, and geographical boundaries. As the sun rises over its stone pillars, the site itself seems to whisper of connections between peoples, ideas, and traditions that span time and space. The carvings on the stones, the layout of the site, and the deliberate positioning of the pillars suggest that Göbekli Tepe was not simply a creation of one isolated group of people, but rather a reflection of a deeper, shared understanding of the world, one that may have reached across cultural boundaries, from the ancient Near East to distant lands. In this chapter, we venture beyond the site itself to explore the broader cultural context that Göbekli Tepe might have been part of. While the site is often considered as a solitary marvel of early human ingenuity, its existence raises intriguing questions about the extent to which cultures were interconnected long before the rise of established civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley. What if Göbekli Tepe was not the product of an isolated community, but rather the centerpiece of a larger, complex network of ideas, beliefs, and practices shared by disparate cultures? Could it be that the knowledge contained within the site was part of an early, forgotten cultural exchange? A meeting point for sacred knowledge, art, and spirituality? To begin understanding the connections between Göbekli Tepe and other ancient cultures, one must first consider the symbols and carvings that adorn the stone pillars. The animals depicted, lions, snakes, vultures, boars, are not isolated symbols, but are found in other ancient cultures, stretching across vast geographical distances. The lion, for example, is a symbol of power, strength, and divine rulership, often found in the art and mythology of ancient societies like Mesopotamia and Egypt. The vulture, associated with death and the underworld, also appears in ancient Egyptian mythology as a guardian of the dead. Snakes, with their ability to shed their skin, are frequently linked to transformation and rebirth in various ancient cultures, from Sumerian to Minoan civilizations. These shared motifs suggest that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were part of a larger cultural network, one in which similar spiritual and cosmological beliefs were transmitted between different groups over time. The widespread use of animal symbolism in the Near East, coupled with the elaborate and highly organized nature of Göbekli Tepe, implies that the site may have been part of an ancient spiritual tradition, a belief system that transcended individual tribes or regions, connecting peoples across vast distances in their reverence for the divine and the forces of nature. It is as if the symbols carved into the stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe are more than just local expressions. They are echoes of a far-reaching tradition, an ancient language of imagery shared by a network of cultures, all of whom understood the sacred nature of the natural world and sought to reflect that reverence in stone. Moreover, the concept of a shared spiritual tradition is further supported by the architectural layout of Göbekli Tepe. The arrangement of the stone pillars in circular formations, the central positioning of certain pillars, and the careful alignment of the site with celestial events suggest that the builders were not just constructing a local temple or ritual site. They were constructing a place of universal significance, a location that would resonate with spiritual power, not only for them, but for other groups who shared similar cosmological understandings. The precision with which the site was constructed points to a knowledge that was passed down, a knowledge that likely traveled across borders, perhaps carried by wandering priests, spiritual leaders, or shamans who shared sacred rituals and practices. The idea of a cultural intersection at Göbekli Tepe is not purely speculative. It is supported by archaeological findings that hint at the movement of people and ideas across the ancient world. Sites in the Near East, such as those in Mesopotamia and Anatolia, display strikingly similar architectural and symbolic features, suggesting that these regions were once part of a broader cultural matrix. The spread of agriculture, for example, is often traced back to this region, and the knowledge of farming, the domestication of animals, and the understanding of celestial alignments may have been exchanged among various groups, laying the foundation for what we recognize today as the first great civilizations. Göbekli Tepe itself, with its immense scale and spiritual significance, may have been a hub in this vast network, an intersection where knowledge of the stars, the earth, and the gods was passed between people who had yet to form the complex urban societies that would later dominate the ancient world. It was not a place for just one group, but for many groups, each bringing their own understanding of the cosmos, their own rituals, and their own reverence for the divine. Over time, this exchange of knowledge, this convergence of ideas, would lay the groundwork for the great civilizations that followed. Yet, the enigma of Göbekli Tepe remains. Was it simply a point in time where cultures crossed paths, or was it something more, a focal point of shared sacred knowledge, a place that held the answers to questions that still elude us today? Perhaps, just as the pillars at Göbekli Tepe were aligned with the stars, so too were the ideas of the people who built them aligned with a greater cosmic order, one that transcended borders, time, and history. As we look at the stones of Göbekli Tepe, we are reminded that the connections between ancient cultures are not always visible, but they are nonetheless profound. Echoes of a time when the heavens above and the earth below were seen as interconnected, and all human cultures shared in the mysteries of the world. As the last light fades over the ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe, the mysteries of this lost civilization remain, waiting to be uncovered by those who seek to understand the past. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of history. If you enjoyed exploring the secrets of Göbekli Tepe, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and share any theories you might have. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on the next adventure. Until then, keep wondering, keep exploring, and let the mysteries of the past continue to inspire you.